you again and welcome back to the Marketplace. In our very first story, the number of commercial banks in the country could increase to about 32 in the coming weeks. This is because two financial institutions are set to roll out full commercial banking operations, possibly from next month. There's more in this report.
The two institutions, that is City Investments Company and Union Savings and Loans, are going ahead to roll out their full commercial banking operations after securing the required license from the Bank of Ghana. Sources say Union Savings and Loans is currently working to clear the final hurdle with the regulator to aid its official launch. Joy Business is learning that City Investments Company will be rebranded under a new name, Premier Bank, whilst Union will be known as Omni Bank. Joy Business understands that the institution has already sent out information to its clients about its new image, whilst it has also started with some internal branding. Joy Business gathers that Union Savings and Loans, which will be known as Omni, will still be heavy on SME financing when it begins its full commercial banking services.
All right, so in this particular development, we're trying to link up with the Executive Director of the Osage 2 Center for Executive Research, who is also a banking consultant, Nana Otu-Achampong, who will assess the implications of the soaring number of commercial banks on the economy and, of course, the banking industry as well. We're trying to link up with Nana Otu-Achampong on the telephone. Good afternoon, Nana, if you can hear me.
Afternoon.
You're welcome to the Marketplace.
Thank you.
Now, my first question is, what impact do you think this soaring number of commercial banks will have on the banking industry as well as the economy?
Well, positive it should have, in the sense that it will become a buyer's market. More banks are available for consumers, and therefore they will be spoiled for choice. Now, it will also intensify competition, and competition is a positive phenomenon in that if the providers sit up. So if you have more banks and they are competing against each other, then they will see to that customer service is at the core, and they will treat their customers as kings, as we normally say. So we look at it on the positive side.
Some experts believe that the economy is quite a small economy relatively to other countries' economies. Now, there seems to be mounting challenges with the banking industry or the banking sector as non-performing loans continue to soar. Now, in this same time, when other banks are joining, do you think it is really worth it?
Well, non-performing loans have nothing to do with the number of banks in the system. Non-performing loans have everything to do with the state of the economy. So if the economy is not growing, if the macroeconomic factors are such that businesses are finding it difficult to produce, then it will have an effect. But the number of banks primarily will intensify competition. Now, for loans to go back, if businesses cannot produce and they are finding difficulties in having even produced to sell their produce and so on, then they have difficulty in meeting the repayment obligations on their loans. Now, what we expect the increase in the number of banks to have on the positive side is for some of them to consolidate to enable us to get bigger ticket banks where they will be able to do like the oil deals, the syndicated loan that Cocoa Board annually takes to buy cocoa and so on. So the more banks that there are, we would expect some of them to consolidate and become big and play in the international field. So presently, we keep hearing that the regulator complains that quite a number of them come to apply for what we term as single obligor, in that you cannot lend or transact a certain percentage of your activity with one source. So if, for instance, you have the oil industry and you want to finance, your capital that you have should allow you to do only a fraction of it. But if you have a big bank, then the bigger you are, the more that you can do. So we are looking for is for these many banks, for some of them to consolidate and become big and get into the international playing field.
Okay, now, do you think that the level of competition that the influx of these banks bring about would, in a way, limit interest rates for businesses and other individuals who seek to take loans from such banks?
No and yes. No, because the interest rate is primarily set by the government through the Monetary Planning Committee, Policy Committee. Now, the rate that they set is usually the determinant for further commercial lending rate. If you take presently the MPC rate, which is the policy rate, at 26%, that means any commercial bank cannot set a rate below 26%. Because if you do that, then you are saying that you are cheaper than the Treasury bill rate, which you cannot be. And therefore, the setting of interest rates starts with the policy committee coming up with a rate which is lower. Now, on the other hand, they are also unable to set a rate lower because government borrowing has a direct functional effect on the level of interest rate that can be set. So the more banks will not have an effect, the competition will not have an effect on interest rate because they take interest rate as given because they don't have a direct impact. Their margins, yes, can go down, so relatively the borrowing margins will go down a little bit. But when you come to the basic core base rate interest, then it starts with government.
All right, now, finally, as sort of the floodgates open for perhaps more banks to join the industry, do you really think that the Bank of Ghana as a regulator will have it easy? And do you suspect that other banks will follow suit in this regard? Well,
the Bank of Ghana as a regulator has been charged to regulate the industry. So if business units see that there's an opportunity to make money and they've done their business plan and the business plan shows a positive return on investment, then they will come and the regulator regulating a free market economy will have no option but to grant them the licenses. So that's one, there's very little that the regulator can do because they don't dictate the market. The market is dictated freely. So as long as business people will find a positive return on the investment that they make in setting up a bank, then we are poised to get more players coming into the foray.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Nana Utue Champong. Nana Utue Champong is a banking analyst and also executive director of the Osage 2 Center for Educational Research and Development. Now, moving on, IFS Capital Management Limited says it is moving away from investments in financial stocks and on the stock market. According to the general manager of IFS, Manfred Bassey, the company will now, from the capital, the company will now move away into investing in other sectors of the economy.
We are monitoring StanChart because it's a very good company. It has done well over the past years, but we are monitoring the pricing. When it starts performing well, we would go back to StanChart. And as of the last quarter, their performance half year was quite good, so we are still considering whether to buy more shares in StanChart in this year's portfolio allocation. And we are leaving, we are not concentrating any longer on the financial stocks. We are looking at other manufacturing and other oil companies, so that the portfolio will be well diversified, not only for the financial sector. Because once the financial sector fails to perform, then it means we are losing out. So we are really in the process of expanding the portfolio into other industries. We have investment in Total, and we also want to invest in Goyle. But we have to invest in listed companies, and these companies you are talking about, they are not listed. We know there's tallow on the market, but the performance is not good enough for us to put in a portfolio at the moment. But we are also monitoring that as soon as the performance is worthy of our clients' investment, we will do that. But basically, we are expanding not only the oil sector, the whole manufacturing sector and other industries.
Now, moving on, the beauty business is indeed big and worth billions of dollars in some countries. In China, for instance, the cosmetics market generates $26 billion a year, making it the third biggest in the world. Here in Ghana, most of the cosmetics are imported and a few of them produced in the country. Today on the Joy Business Van, Daryl Kwao will be heading to one of the promising cosmetic startup, Green Essentials, run by Ya Enimamisa Jampo. It is a story of a caterer turned manufacturer of soaps and creams.
I just like doing soap, so I wouldn't say it's difficult. For me, no.
Only a few months ago, her catering business had slowed down and it was getting really frustrating. It was at that time she discovered a shower gel made from black soap, or ala-to-samina as it is known in the local parlance. That piqued her interest. She signed up for a course in soap making and did a lot of research on YouTube.
You know, few errors, actually lots of errors, but eventually we got there, and then, you know, with the help of YouTube, actually, I would say, now I was able to add different things to it. So I wasn't just using what they taught me, but I was using my own formulas and putting different oils that people normally wouldn't do. So I did the soap. First one, I was trying to use shea butter and added different oils. It came out well. Then I did just coconut, adding peppermint oil and different oils, and I called the soap the Breeze. So the soap was just something on the side. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted the soap. I gave it to friends, and then they were like, oh, can I have one? Oh, the soap you gave me is really good. Can I have one? The soap you gave me. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can actually just make soap and sell.
All right, so you catch the full story on Business Live tonight at 5 p.m. Now, moving on, Tullow Oil can from tomorrow start working towards the export of crude oil from the Trinidad, Enyira and Ntome 10 oil fields, possibly next week. This is because President John Mahama is expected to formally turn the taps, paving the way for full commercial production of crude oil on the field. Let's now get onto the phone lines where our correspondent George Riafe is expected to take part in the commissioning ceremony. But for now, to bring us up to speed on the mood in Takoradi. Good afternoon, George, and welcome to Marketplace.
Hi, good afternoon, Emmanuel. I hope you're also doing great in the office in Accra.
Yes, we are fine. Now, tell us, what's the mood like in Takoradi now?
Well, it's not for the small number of people that have been able to engage, even though not scientific. They are more of expectant. They think that this other field or coming on to join Jubilee, they're going to see more excitement in Takoradi in terms of economic activities and inflow of capital as well. So they are more of expectant, looking forward to this actual ceremony and its impact, or the economic impact of this development on the 10 field on the Takoradi township.
All right, now, can you tell us a little about the 10 fields? What is it?
Well, basically, we understand it holds a deposit of about 2 billion barrels of crude oil. Now, basically, this is the second biggest oil field apart from Jubilee. You know, we had Jubilee, and this one has also come on board. And it has about 24 oil wells, basically. What we also understand when it has an FPSO named after John Evans Atamils. Now, what we are also picking right now is that FPSO has the capacity to store almost about 1.7 million barrels of crude oil, and also on a daily basis can take about 80 barrels of crude oil and take on about 120 people. And it's a very, very big vessel, if I can explain or give you a mental picture. Very, very big. It has generators on board. It has machines on board. Take about 120 people and being able to extract crude from the seabed and even store it as well, Emmanuel.
All right, so George, we hear that even before the commissioning comes of tomorrow, the 10 field has already started churning out some oil. Can you confirm this? And to what extent will it have?
It's still, I mean, that's why we hear the communication is that officially. So obviously, there have been some test runs. You have to do those test runs to ensure that if you're going full commercial production, that is possible. Don't forget that they are doing on a daily basis for now, they're supposed to do 23,000 barrels of crude oil. Okay. So you just don't cross your legs, sit there and wait just to this day before you do that. You have to do some test runs, and that test run has confirmed that everything is good for them to move ahead produce more crude oil, store it, and export it possibly from next week, Emmanuel.
Now, what will be the impact of 10 operations on the economy and power generation in general?
Well, let's first start with Talu, because if you've been following development at Talu or following its financials, they've been having some challenges. Jubilee, which is one of their cash cows in terms of their entire production in the world, hasn't been doing that well. So with this production coming on board and oil prices picking up, that will first go a long way to improve the fortunes of Talu. The more money they make, that could have impacts in terms of the profits or the taxes that they post. If they make more profits, that could also lead to them employing more indigents. Also in terms about what they would do in the Takoradi township. When they make enough profits, they pay money to the state in terms of taxes. That would have another impact on the economy and also employment generation. Don't forget that if activities build up on the 10, they might need more hands to do a lot of work on the 10 fields. Now with the economy or with respect to power generation, don't forget that another buy or benefit of this extraction of oil is gas. So if they're able to fast-track the processes and start exporting gas, it will have a lot of implications for power generation in the country, not just for generation of power, but even domestic use of gas as well from the 10 fields.
All right, so as we get it, it means that crude oil is going to start coming out of 10 tomorrow. Do we also get gas tomorrow?
Not with respect to the export. As we speak, they're already extracting gas from the field. But whether they are enough for them to start exporting that, that's another thing altogether. Because don't forget that they also need the gas to re-inject into the oil wells to aid production as well. So when I spoke to the chief executive of Talu Oil Ghana, what I get from him is that the export of gas will not start immediately, but it might take some time. What they are trying to do right now is to see whether they can fast-track the process, because per the original plan with government, they're supposed to start exporting gas to Ghana 12 months from commercial production of crude oil. But if they're able to fast-track things, that might happen before the 12-month timeline that they're giving to themselves.
All right. George, before you finally go, are you going to go by a vessel to the FPSO tomorrow, or you are flying by helicopter to the vessel? And what time?
The arrangement that we have, we're going to fly by helicopter, and that should be in the morning. It's supposed to get there before the president gets over, so that might be very, very early tomorrow morning.
Okay. You must be a lucky guy, George. Thank you very much, and take care of yourself. That was George Riafe, our correspondent, currently in Takoradi, waiting for the commissioning ceremony tomorrow to be done by the President, John Dramani Mahama, to commission the 10 project. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Thank you very much for staying. This is the Marketplace. Now, expect something new when it comes to internet connectivity in the months ahead. This is because of a new technology called Television White Space, or TVWS, deployed by the National Communications Authority.
TV white space is a phenomenon where we look at the channels that are not being used within the TV band. And the channels that are not being used, we refer to them as what? White channels. So technology innovations brought it that, okay, those channels that are not being used can be utilized for data transmission. So they develop radios that can transmit using those channels. Another is an add-on to the existing technologies for broadband or data transmission. So we decided to propagate it in Ghana. Globally, it's being used for rural data transmission. In the Philippines, they have about 1,000 islands, and this is what they are using to propagate broadband transmission onto the islands. And we are also hoping that the trial so far will encourage private entrepreneurs to use it to extend data transmission to our rural areas, especially the basic schools and the science schools.
Well, on that note, we draw down the curtains on this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Thank you very much for joining me, and do join us again same time tomorrow for another interesting package. Meantime, you can get interactive by tweeting at Joy Business GH is the handle, and by Facebooking Joy Business is the page. For more business news, log on to www.myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Wiafe. Join us again for more business updates at 5 p.m. on Business Live. Good afternoon.